keep up with your favorite PBS programs and local productions from Texas Tech Public Media, visit kttz.org and find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Vimeo, and on the radio on 89.1 FM. You're watching KTTZ TV Channel 5, Texas Tech Public Media.
Yeah, you know, we just celebrated our 25th anniversary. And 25 years ago, so that was 1993, Betty Dotz received a phone call from PFLAG National.
I remember feeling like a wave of water was about to come over me and drown me. I know the people of Lubbock graduated from Lubbock High, and I know their viewpoints, and I knew they were not acceptable for most people, but they knew we were supportive, and they knew that Teddy, being a minister, the stand he could take. So, of course, we said yes. It was the right thing to do.
See, originally, it was formed to help parents, friends, and or families of lesbians and gays. You know, it stood for that, PFLAG, parents, friends of lesbians and gays. So the purpose in the original formation of PFLAG nationally was they recognized that parents needed assistance.
We would meet in a home and go around the circle and share. And there were many tears because for some parents and for some gays, this was the first time that they had ever admitted to anyone. And for some, first time, for many of them, they had done so in a group. Well, this was a safe group. These were people that supported and cared about each other. A few, when they'd come, they had questions about whether their child was, whether it was chosen or a lifestyle.
What did I do wrong? How can I fix it? You know. So it was an education group. Then it grew from there to recognizing the mission was bigger and the need was bigger, and that gay people, individuals, needed a place to feel safe too and talk about their issues and what problems they were having in society or in Lubbock or in their classroom or with their neighbor. You know, they needed to be able to have a safe place to discuss these things and find help. So she did the research, she and Teddy did the research, and they went to National and they went to some PFLAG meetings and they found out what it was all about and what the mission was. And so they had a meeting. So they couldn't figure out where they wanted to meet because they weren't sure how the community, if the community found out they were trying to form a PFLAG in Lubbock, how they would react. Would they be safe? Would the members be safe? And where, you know, finding a location to do all this.
This was not a group you could just go anywhere and meet. so we finally, I had said, let me check with St. John's Methodist Church, because Teddy had been the pastor there for 17 years and we knew all the people and knew that they, by and large, they were supportive or friendly. And they said, if we meet there, some of the thugs would come and punch holes in your tires or scratch your car. And I thought, my goodness, I was a little worried. What am I getting into?
They spoke to the leadership at the church and told them what they wanted to do, and so they agreed to let them have that first meeting in a classroom, and it was a small group.
Well, we'll meet upstairs, second floor, in a room where people can't see in. And we'll turn the lights out in the hall.
She got security, police officers, off-duty police officers, you know, to work in the parking lot and make sure nobody did anything to the cars.
They would guide them upstairs and then had somebody else at that door. And usually I was standing there with Teddy. And then they would come in with the windows, blinds shut.
For West Texas, one of those issues that we don't do so well on is around social progress. That's true for lots of rural spaces. And in that context, I think it means that Texas Tech has more of a responsibility to lead on social progress. We are supposed to innovate. So why aren't we doing it when it comes to social justice issues, which of course includes LGBTQIA equality and equity?
I was in the Monterey High School choir, and certain individuals in the student body, mostly football players and their cheering squad, I guess you'd say, put up discriminating signs about me being in the choir. And they were signs that were posted outside the choir room door because we were about to go to a competition. And so they made references to back then it was, let the big faggot sing by himself on these signs that were posted outside the choir room door. So that was probably the first real public discrimination toward me that I remember.
The memory that I remember the clearest was, I want to say about 2 years ago. I wasn't necessarily an officer in GSA yet. We were tabling outside in the free speech area, and it was Pride Week, I believe. And when I was on my way out from tabling, I heard a peer, a student, say, I want to take that flag and just nail it through their throats. So that was like a surreal experience for me. I would say it was one of the most prominent experiences, and the way that we handled that was we just did the campus climate report, which kind of goes through the system, takes note of what and how the climate of the campus grows and whatnot. So yeah, so the prejudice is still there.
Most of the peers that I work with, they won't vocalize it, but I can see it in their body language, I can see it in their expression, that they are just not okay with me being in their presence. And it could just be something as simple as how I dress or somebody as who I'm with at that time. These little indicators are what causes them to shut down to us, and I personally think it's unfair, and I don't want that with the rest of my group. I don't want them to say, you know, I can only do this major because that's all who welcomes me. It's not the point of doing something because we have to. I want it to be it's because you want to.
I think about the state laws that protect people like me from various kinds of hardships like employment discrimination. It's a patchwork across the state. Some states do have it, some states don't. It's a checkerboard across the country. The same with churches.
We have a lot of churches in Lubbock, and a lot of churches will not tolerate the GLBT community.
Teddy and I had the helpline, telephone helpline. And how many times gays would call, young kids, just young kids, and they were going to commit suicide. But their family had rejected them, hated them. They believed that God hated them. I worked a lot with that one because, of course, I said, no, you too are a child of God. You are loved like everyone else by God. Your parents may have rejected you. That does not mean God hates you. That does not mean that you're going to hell. No, no, that's not. I think that's a totally incorrect interpretation of the Bible. It's a God of love.
I've been burned a few times by having my passion and my faith basically walk me into a wall or a barrier and not be able to go any further because of my LGBTQIA identity. That has changed here.
They will do gay marriages. They will allow gay individuals to become active members in the church.
It's no longer like everyone opposes. Now it's a job in and of itself to like, okay, so this church does support, this church doesn't. Well, that one says they do, and they welcome LGBTQ people, but won't ordain or affirm them. So do they really support the people, or is that just a public position? So, you know, it's becoming a very complicated world for people who are gay, are trans, are queer identified, who say, I do believe in a faith, and I just want to be part of that.
I was not aware. I found out when I moved here, which wasn't the smartest move on my part. On the other hand, I didn't know I was LGBT in high school, so it wasn't something on my radar. I found out when I got here that I was bi, that I was trans, and that this city didn't want me here.
Even now, the LGBT community embodies ourselves in our own bubble that accepts us as who we are outside from the society.
It tends to be that we do stick to each other, and that's just because that's who we know best. So it's not a bad thing for the LGBTQIA community to stick amongst each other, but when you're faced with a lot of verbal warnings or harassment or just even derogatory terms, you really shut yourself off to other parts of the community. And I've had a lot of other trans peers that I've had go out, and they are not allowed to get haircuts at certain places. So it starts to feel like we're more getting forced out of a community versus being accepted. And that's where the divide happens, is it's not just because we stick with each other, but it's simply because we don't really have an option. We stick with each other, it's because who we know best, and then we stay amongst ourselves because at the end of the day, we don't know where to go. Most of us aren't Lubbock locals. Most of us are coming in from another city that is bigger, smaller, another state, or even a different type of culture. And we just have yet to find exactly where we can broaden our reach. And that's something that we're really focusing on, is that the divide is only there simply because we're battling old traditions and new traditions. And this new community obviously sees everything differently. And the old community, being the people who really stay in Lubbock, don't really view that as an opening idea.
Many supportive people were already here before we ever had this office or I began my role here. But what changed, I think, is the intentionality and the coordination behind it. Many more people have been able to come forward and talk about the fact, like, you know, we've just been waiting for some entity or body to sort of pull it all together.
For students on campus, there has been an immense amount of resources that have arisen, like the Office of LGBTQIA, then all other departments like RISE and Student Wellness Center has grown to provide or serve as resources when the Office of LGBTQIA wasn't there.
Interestingly enough, I've been working on a presentation today that's for our advisory committee tomorrow that reflects back on calendar year 2017 and the impact that we believe that this office has had on Texas Tech and the surrounding community. In that time, in that 1 year, keeping in mind that I'm the only full-time staff member in the office and that I have an amazing team of student assistants, we have basically impacted just under 3,000 students, faculty, and staff. We've participated or hosted 27 programs in calendar year 2017 and gave over 60 class or group presentations during that calendar year. I was being taken over to meet with the vice president, or he was the senior vice president, that was over both diversity areas as well as student affairs areas. Dr. Juan Munoz, he's now a chancellor in Houston. But I remember going in to meet with Dr. Munoz, and I'd already been warned that Dr. Munoz was a very strong personality. But sitting there talking to him that day, he was talking about how Texas Tech is seen, and rightfully so, as a leader in a whole host of things. And he mentioned diversity work. And I said, well, I don't think I would agree with that when it comes specifically to this population, when it comes to LGBTQIA populations. And he was a bit taken back by that, and not in a bad way, but it stopped the conversation. And I said, no, you know, Texas Tech has the potential to be a leader in the Big 12, in the state of Texas, in this region, when it comes to this population and this work. But do not paint the picture that you are right now, because you're very behind on this work. For you to be a Research One institution, a well-respected, growing, 38,000 student institution, you should have been doing this work years ago. And I said, as part of that, here's an example of what I would do if I got this job. And I do this for the people here, but also as a demonstration to the broader community of where we stand. I said I'd pull people together. I would host a conference of some sort. It eventually became our summit. Another plug, remember our vendors. I saw some of you. How many of you have bought some Pride swag back there? 51, oh my gosh.
I'm working with several of the Friendship High School students to make this happen.
I think of gender kind of how you see yourself fitting within the terms of what is traditionally masculine and feminine, and deciding which aspects of that you really resonate with you.
In the back. So can you see me? I can see the top of a ball.
So please, I stress it. We know what to do, but there's a lot that we still don't know.
I don't know. There's still 3 tickets left. So want someone else started?
Yeah, okay, good.
It's probably because y'all have been
Oh, we've been super
It's just phenomenal and amazing to me that Texas Tech University has taken this huge step and opened these doors. And other universities are watching, and it's what she's doing is such great work and helping so many people. So the summit was really a big deal because she reached out beyond the Lubbock community to the Big 12. And there were people from all over the place that attended the summit. And the work she did to get all those speakers and workshops and community involvement and find the funding and get it all organized was a big task. It was not just a summit. It was not just another conference to attend. It sent a message, and a strong message, to the community, to the university, and outside the state, outside Texas Tech.
I'm just really glad that we were able to have this kind of programming since it was a Big 12 summit. That's a fairly conservative region of the United States, I would feel like. And it was just really encouraging to know that Texas Tech was spearheading this movement for more like LGBT inclusion, like in the classrooms and in the community, at least amongst our universities and stuff.
The Big 12 Summit is the first ever LGBTQIA summit or conference in Texas, at Texas Tech and West Texas as a whole. So I would say that is such a meaningful thing to see that happen, because Lubbock is a very stereotypical conservative place. Even just like the March for Our Lives, like that was not even LGBT, and we had people driving around with their trucks and just blowing smoke in like Lubbock community people, and it just serves as like, wow, this is a conservative place that people would be willing to do this to other people. So having the Big 12 Summit is such, I don't know, a revolutionary thing for Little West Texas. And compared to the rest of the US, like, this is something that happened in the Bible Belt, which is very hard and a difficult thing to make happen.
I just never thought I would see like what we had at Tech in my lifetime. And that has happened. The most thing I'm proud of, that some of these gays are living. They're not dead. And that one, there's a lot of pain in saying that. I'm proud that there's still a P flag. And I'm so proud of the parents, so many parents. My goodness, it's a journey. First there's the shock and denial, and then most of them then begin the learning process. And there are many parents that have gone from objection to tolerance, to acceptance, to celebration. Because it is to be celebrated, just as being a heterosexual, when one realizes who they are and what they can do and the love they can create for another person. So the gays can do this too now.
I don't want it to be to where Lubbock becomes an anti-LGBTQIA community. Actually, it's so big that it doesn't deserve that title. It deserves to be known as a friendly environment. And if Tech is able to have that ability because we gave it to it, then why can't the rest of the city? So our biggest goal is to find our allies so we can start broadening our reach, not just on Tech campus, but also the whole city as well. There are people that want to reside here. There are people that plan on moving here. And for future generations, I don't want them to turn down the idea of tech because it's been a great school just simply because we can't be who we are out here. This is the best time for us to be who we are and pretty much stand together in our comfortability as well as the love for ourselves. That's really the power driver in this whole community, is just simply loving yourself and keep on pushing through all the mud. Because at the end of the day, we are fighting for a bigger cause. And I hope that if you feel repressed, if you feel silenced by any means, that you find that love and support that you need, whether it be an organization off campus or even simply someone as close as your friends and family. Make sure that you have that good establishment, because we deserve the best things in life, and it starts by loving yourself.
So kind of our theme at the 25th anniversary was, we're not done yet. We have a special little niche that groups, big groups of people, make legislators aware of. They don't come up with this stuff on their own. There's groups of people out there fighting against the GLBT community all the time, and we must continue the fight. So I will leave you with that. We will always stand up, and we will always fight.